Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another video. If this is your first time or if you're a returning viewer, something you may notice about this channel is that I happen to review a lot of horror movies. And if you like horror movies, then that means welcome to the channel. But what that also means is that you've most likely seen the Stephen King novel / adapted into a movie, Pet Sematary. Now, I'm sure if you've seen that movie, you remember what it's about because it's one of those old movies that everyone seems to remember. But if not, here's a quick Spark Notes version for you. Very simple. Family with a small child and a cat, cat's kind of important, moves into town. They're living their happy, idyllic life here, and nothing can go wrong until the cat gets run over by an 18-wheeler. And so, now that the cat's dead, how are we going to explain it to our child that there's something called death and eventually it comes for everybody? But no, let's not do that. Instead, we meet Judd, who lives across the street. Yes, this wonderful old man who, in his wonderful old man wisdom, tells the father of the family that, hey, I saw your cat just died, but there's a pet cemetery that's like 300 miles that way. I could walk you to it even though I'm 900 years old, and if you plant something in that pet cemetery, it'll come back to life. But it won't come back to life normally, but I'm telling you this because plot line. So, long story short, cat comes back, super weird. Eventually, the kid decides, oh, the major highway that's in between our houses, that seems like a beautiful place to just run out into the middle of, and he becomes pavement thanks to an 18-wheeler. So, of course, dealing with the loss of any child is always a very stressful and difficult thing to deal with as a parent. So what does the father do? Let me go bury him in the cemetery so he can come back to life, even though obviously the cat came back just perfect. But why not? Let's bury our kid and have him come back because that seems like the best thing to fix my relationship. And so he does, and kid just starts killing everyone. Because Pet Sematary's evil. And that's basically the end of it. Now, I know what you're probably thinking to yourself. In that short explanation I gave you, you're probably like, oh, what's the context? I wish I knew more. I wish that there was more that I could observe from this and take in and actually be able to learn more about the backstory. And I hear you. I hear you barking, big dog. I know exactly what you're talking about. You want the backstory, the most entertaining, the most pivotal part of this entire story that completely boggles the mind of everyone. You want to know more about Judd. And welcome to this week's review. It's going to be Pet Sematary Bloodlines that does exactly that. Pet Sematary Bloodlines is a 1969 young Judd Crandall and his childhood friends band together to confront an ancient evil that has gripped their hometown of Ludlow. Now, if we take our beautiful time to come over to the IMDb page, IMDb sponsor me, I give y'all all this free publicity, and obviously I know you're a small website, but don't worry, I'm sticking up for you. But if we come over to the IMDb page, it currently has a rating of 4.7 out of 10 and a popularity of 15. 15! See, I told you everybody wanted to know about the backstory of Judd. And so, here we have it. Of course, this movie was directed by Lindsay Anderson Bear. Of course, she knows what everybody wants is that beautiful, beautiful Judd backstory. Judd Crandall is played by Jackson White. His love interest Norma is played by Natalie Allen Lind. We have Forrest Goodluck, who plays Manny Rivers, our pivotal Native American insert, and his sister, played by Isabella LeBlanc, Donna Rivers. And then we have the father, Henry Thomas, played by Henry Thomas, who plays Dan Crandall. We have Jack Mulhern, who plays Timmy. Everyone else doesn't really matter, but Timmy, good old Timmy, is the subject of our story. Because if you've ever watched the original Pet Sematary, you might remember that the whole reason this thing got out of hand and the reason that Judd knows about it is because Timmy came back from the war, and well, let's just say he didn't come back with his heart beating and his arms moving. He was as stiff as a board. So now, knowing that his son died valiantly in war and sacrificed his life to protect his country, let's bury him in the Pet Cemetery and bring him back, baby. And so this is that story. So without further ado, grab a chair, grab some popcorn, whatever your favorite beverage is, cuddle up to the fire, strap on some headphones, or watch this on the TV like a normal person, and join me as I regale you with this story of Pet Sematary Bloodlines, Paramount Plus original movie. So very simply, this movie opens up with Judd setting the scene and giving us the backstory we want, that we really wanted. And we learn that the ground was cursed by the Big Mac tribe, or Sorry, the movie says the Micmac tribe, but Big Mac, I mean, come on, it just sounds so much cooler. Ending with the iconic line of, "Sometimes dead is better."
Sometimes dead is better.
Some of you may not know, as I gave the Spark Notes version of Pet Sematary, but that's the whole line, as we'll figure out here soon later on. But teaser, spoiler, hashtag whatever, but that's how it goes. In the title screen, baby, it's go time, Pet Sematary Bloodlines. We also get this short scene of Bill dragging his dead son Timmy to the burial ground, which again is super far away. They don't really establish that in this movie, but in the original Pet Sematary movie, they climb up a mountain, up an entire mountain to get to this place. But that's just left out of this movie. So, what happens when you bury dead Timmy, war soldier, into the ground? That's right, Timmy immediately messes up the family dog, which immediately makes him public enemy number 1 in this movie, but hey, we needed a bad guy, did we not? But none of that matters now because we get this happy old school music and young Judd, a young, very ripped Judd. We also see Judd was friends with Timmy and Manny. Manny being the local Native American insert because we need one of those, because remember how the ground was cursed by the Big Mac Paddywhack tribe? Well, of course they're Native American, so come on Manny, you have to be descendants of them or something. At least that's what this movie is telling us, but right on Manny. Bill then makes fun of Judd for not joining the military, Bill being Timmy's father, because you're just a wuss if you don't go and try to die for our country, you know, America style. But Timmy came back as a certified hero, definitely not dead, definitely wasn't buried in the Pet Sematary, but he's just fine. But now, we also learn that Judd is planning on going off with his girlfriend Norma to join the Peace Corps because peace and love, man. After managing to return home, Jud'S dad says that thank God Timmy came back in one piece, kind of. They then to go hang out at the ice rink because I guess that's all that you can really do in Ludlow, but the whole time, Judd just keeps talking about leaving with his girlfriend and going out and living his life. His dad even tells him, "You should definitely get out of here." That's awesome because this town just grabs a hold of you, and then they also find out that the draft is currently going on, and well, everybody has to go check the paper to see if they're going to war because it's on the town's local bulletin board at the ice rink. So if you're going to war, you better go check the ice rink. And of course, Judd's not on it again, and neither is Manny, mainly because main character syndrome, baby. It's also officially time that Judd and his girlfriend are leaving to go join the Peace Corps, and they're out of here, goodbye, on their way, end of story, until they hit a bird in the middle of the road because bird becomes roadkill or would it be air kill? Either way, they hit a bird, and they go out to check on the bird because I'm sure after the bird gets hit by a car going 60, it's just fine. But in front of the car, it's not the bird, it's Bill's family dog. It's Hendrix, remember the one that got immediately messed up? And oh boy, does he look like he got messed up. We now once again are joined with Manny and his sister Donna as they had decided to go smoke weed in the middle of the sunflowers, man. Donna even talks to Manny about going to an art show. It's all going to be all of her art, man. But Manny doesn't really seem to want to go anywhere, saying that he's basically not her, he's not fancy and stuff like that. He's just alluding to the fact that he'll probably just stay in this town his entire life. Either he doesn't have aspirations or he doesn't really care, which pretty based, Manny. For some reason though, the sunflower in this middle of the sunflower field is becoming a woman, and it's on its time of the month. This is a perfectly natural, normal thing that happens to all sunflowers, and for some reason Manny just doesn't understand it. Walks towards it, falls, and stabs his hand on a rock or a thorn, but either way, boy does it look bad. But during all this, we see that Judd and his girlfriend Norma are for some reason following the family dog Hendrix on foot, even though they were in a car, so they supposedly just left their car way back down the road. But because of that, they now follow the family dog back, and wow, would you look at that, it's Timmy's house. Timmy! But before the lovely couple can leave, Timmy shows up, and you may be thinking to yourself, oh, he just wants to greet his old friend, you know, the one that he didn't get to see because he died in war. Nope, he basically starts berating Judd, saying, if you were in war, you'd probably pee yourself, probably set off a whole minefield. What are you gonna do? Cry? whine about it. Bet your dad paid off all those draftees so you wouldn't be sent to war. And I mean, he's kind of right about that second part. It kind of does seem that Jud's father paid off a lot of the intrigue people to not have his son go to war, which, good job, Dad, but in 1969, that kind of makes you a massive wuss. But after that super awkward conversation, Jud and his girlfriend Norma decide it's time to head out. You know, we stopped by, said hellos, you seem kind of weird, sorry about the war, but we're gonna leave. But before they can do that, the family dog wants to say goodbye by trying to bite off Norma's arm. All the while, Timmy could care less. Timmy's just sitting there like he's watching Sunday cartoons. He really does not care. And while Jud is freaking out about this, trying to get the dog's mouth off of his girlfriend's arm, Timmy just fires a gun into the air and the dog's like, yep, that's my cue to stop, buckaroo. And as the dog wanders back into the house and Jud is shouting for somebody to call an ambulance, call 911, do something, Timmy's like, I fail to see how that's my problem, and simply just goes back into the house. Luckily though, somebody called 911. Maybe it was the director, because I have no clue how they got there. But luckily, 1969 medical services were able to stop the arterial bleeding that was most likely going on in Norma's arm, and she is A-okay. After that though, to literally push this plot of wrong, Jud manages to bump into Manny at the hospital, because remember, he stabbed his hand too. And when I say bump into him, I mean physically bumps into him. But now that the old gang's back together, Jud has decided he's going to talk to Manny about what's going on with Timmy. Timmy! He seems different. There's so many different things that are going on with him. It's almost like, oh man, I don't know. It's like he was sent to war and maybe he was super traumatized or maybe something happened. But Manny's like, look, dude, maybe that's just what war is. War's kind of messed up. And so at that point, they kind of just chalk it up to that. They go, you know what? War. Pretty bad, man. Maybe that is what it is. And so Jud and Manny decide, well, that's our weekly interaction for the week. Time to peace out. What is Timmy doing here? Jud, thinking that this is perfectly normal, just seeing Timmy stare up into the sky with blood dripping down his hands and a dead carcass next to him, decides, I want to go talk to that guy and see what's up. But before he can, Timmy disappeared. Because he can do that, I guess. And so because of that, Bill now shows up and basically acting like nothing happened. He's like, why don't you just run along, Jud? You have no reason being down here. And Jud's like, I just want to talk to my old friend. He seemed like he was messed up. Bill's having none of it. Bill's like, you know what? Timmy needs time to adjust. You're here messing stuff up. He's really got to work through some personal things right now. And Jud's like, well, I can help with that. All until the point where Bill raises his shovel into a more threatening position. And at that point, it's like, you know what? Good luck to Timmy. Hopefully he's all right. It's no longer my problem. After doing so, Jud goes home and talks to his father. And of course, his father and mother are completely confused as to the reason why he's back. They were just leaving to go join the Peace Corps. Did they decide that peace was overrated and came back?
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
I mean, maybe. But he comes back and he talks to his dad. He goes, Dad, why do you so badly want me to leave Ludlow? And his dad's like, just get out of here. All the while, his father can tell him why he wants him to leave Ludlow. But plot points, baby. No need to tell my son about this super creepy thing that always goes on in this town. Just get on out of here. All while this is going on, we can see that Timmy is adjusting really well. And it was a good thing that Jud didn't go over there, because we see that he has his emotional support dead rats that are in the corner. You know, he's painting to help kind of get some of his inner emotions out, really express himself. He goes to rub his fingers as almost like a therapeutic thing, only the skin rips off of his fingers. Oh, those darn hangnails, am I right? I hate it when I touch my fingertips together and they just evaporate under my finger. But Timmy, being the natural genius and imaginative person that he is, so creative, uses this to now paint with his fingers. He's so innovative. Finger painting with your own bloody fingers. That is top notch. Well, all this is going on, Hendrix decided to show up at Marjorie, who is also one of the big members of this town, I guess. And while she's there, Timmy also decides to show up because these things can just teleport, I guess. I mean, either that or they're moving at the speed of sound. And if they're able to touch their fingertips together and their skin comes off, if they're moving that fast, why are they not just walking skeletons at this point? I feel like all their skin would just fly off them like a skin suit and but Timmy just decided to stop by so he could talk to Marjorie, you know, read off lines from her father's suicide note, you know, the typical things you do with your neighbors. And upon hearing this, Marjorie's like, yeah, that's not good. And so, doesn't matter because now we have our Native American insert back here with our hippy dippy tribe, man, with all the peace, love, and weed, man, and it's all hunky-dory, man. But as previously stated with Marjorie now decides to hop in that group chat and call the town sheriff and even calls the town mayor, and we see the conversation between her and the town mayor saying that they need to hold a town meeting as everything's starting to happen again, which if everything's starting to happen again, why is it happening again? Why have y'all not taken more precautions about what's going on? But doesn't matter because what happens as soon as Marjorie gets off the phone? Well, that's right, good boy family dog Hendrix comes in and attacks her. Hey, but none of that matters because it's dance montage, baby. Everybody just starts getting down out in the middle of the woods. Definitely time for a happy dance party because ain't nothing going wrong in this town. Well, besides the fact that Buzzkill Timmy shows up.
Timmy.
And just decides to be a super creep and starts hitting on Manny's sister. I mean, what's that all about? But Manny does what everybody should do to all the creepy people who show up to totally not creepy dance parties in the woods and just straight up spear tackles them. That's right, Manny. Show him who's boss. Then after that, we now see that Marjorie has shown up to the local diner for the local meeting with her face all messed up because who else? It's Hendrix the family dog. But I guess that's why they say that dogs are men's best friend and not women's side character best friend. But Donna decides to tell Manny that that's not Timmy, that something's talking through Timmy and he just doesn't seem to be right. It probably also doesn't help the fact that Timmy seems to know a lot of stuff that he shouldn't, that being a lot of Donna's dreams and how she's been having nightmares about the cursed land. But hey, maybe Timmy's just psychic or a super good guesser.
I lost my boyfriend tragically a few years ago. They never found him. And I've had such a hard time since, every day.
The reason why you didn't find him is because he's in water.
It was September 11th. He was a fireman,
But Judd, hearing something in the middle of the night, does what any white, hot-blooded American would do and runs outside in his boxers with a rifle, only to see that there's a ladder up to his window because that seems perfectly normal. The only thing that's even more normal than that is the fact that that childhood photo that he had in the beginning of the movie is now in the middle of the road with cigarette burn holes burnt into all the faces. He only manages to notice this right before he almost gets hit by a car because I guess, you know, with it being out in the middle of nowhere and everything and not a single sound for miles, you can't hear cars coming up on you in 1969. Obviously, that's when they had those Priuses and all the silent engines, so car just probably totally snuck up on him, and thank God he's alive because we all know how quiet 1969 cars are. But after that split-second scare and almost becoming roadkill, for some reason, Manny decides that he's going to sneak in through Judd's window because he couldn't just go up to the front door, I guess. It's not like they were childhood friends or anything. And of course, having just been spooked by whatever was at his window, Judd immediately points the gun at Manny, and to his credit, Manny has two of the best lines in this entire movie, and I know if I were to say them, I would completely butcher them and not deliver them with as much comedic value, even though I am the peak form of comedy. I'm just not in that situation, so go ahead, Manny. Take it away and just enjoy the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Never pointed a gun at an Indian. Just, man. Oh shit, why are you sexy?
I also feel super bad at this moment because Judd and Manny are trying to figure out what's going on, and they're trying to find out what's wrong with Timmy.
Timmy!
And the thing that's the most infuriating about it is that Judd's father could tell him what's going on, and we could stop like half of this movie, but no, that's not what's going to happen. Instead, we are going to go over to Donna, who is now left at her house alone because Manny decided to play sleepover with Judd, and well, Timmy decided to play sleepover with Donna. And of course, as anybody would try to do, Donna tries to plead with Timmy, Even remember how I used to cut the crusts off for you? Timmy doesn't care about crusts anymore, Donna. And Timmy manages to stab Donna in the abdomen, and in a complete stroke of genius and complete artistic creativity, Donna decides to sprint past not one, but two vehicles that are in the front yard. Do they run? I don't know. One of them has to, probably, because they don't seem to live anywhere near the town, but even if she does or doesn't have the keys, she was just inside, so why wouldn't you have just grabbed the keys, which couldn't have been too far off? My keys are on my desk, which is right by my door, so there's no way that I would not have my keys if something like that happened. But instead of hopping in one of the cars for safety or trying to drive away, it's all peace and love, man, and so she decides to run out into the sunflowers, because I'm sure the sunflowers would protect you and all. Well, they don't, because Timmy gets to her, and as you can guess what happens, Timmy isn't there to have a nice conversation about the sunflowers. Of course, while all this is going on, Judd and Manny go to the church because God will be the answer to what's going on. Well, actually, it's because all the oldest records are held at the church, and of course the priest there is drunk, because that makes total sense, and just like, here's all the books that were in the basement, feel free to read them if you want. And so this is what we call a plot point, baby, because now they get to read books that basically describe what's up with the ground. And if you ask me, this probably would have been a more interesting story, but long story short, there were settlers already in this little settlement called Ludlow, shocker, and they had new settlers decide to come in to, give them more supplies and help build everything up. Well, they walk past the first Pet Sematary, which is the ones with all the protection signs and is kind of normal ground, but they go further in only to see that it's the danger ground, which is right where the Ludlow settlement is, because they built up around it. It seems like a great place to call home, but
it's an ancient Indian burial ground. Man, this place has got everything.
An ancient Indian what?
we also get to see the original Native American insert, who begins to speak in his native tongue, basically saying that the settlers buried their people on the soiled ground and became the monster, and now the people are evil and the people are evil monsters. And while all this is going on, one of the people decides to walk off and they find, guess who? It's the original Ludlow, and he seems to be feasting on a dead body. And after screaming, the rest of the people show up, and guess what? The person who screamed is now being feasted on by Ludlow. And of course, the original Native American insert decides to tell them, make sure, aim for the eyes. But while all this backstory is going on, Judd is reading through some of the books and manages to see, you guessed it, his own last name as one of the original settlers in the book, that being Crandall. So, plot point, baby. We could have just skipped all this if the father would have just talked to his son, but here we are. We also see that Jud's dad has a journal that basically explains the cheat code to what's going on, even saying to pass it on to his son. Guess he decided not to do it, but instead just holds on to it, and it says, aim for the eyes. They come back odd. They're not the same people that it is. It's trying to get people to feed the land. Like, it literally says everything. It is a gamer guide to defeating the Pet Sematary. We also see that Timmy appears to have dragged Donna's body back to the land before time and had the dramatic hat removal between Judd and his father. Also saying that, Dad, I saw the books. It says Crandall. That's our name. Great observation, Judd. Basically saying that now they have to stop it, and they have to stop it from spreading, and that's why they've said there, and that's why they haven't told anyone about it, because they don't want people to know about the land. But obviously people still know about the land, and even though they refuse to tell the younger generation about it so that they don't do something of the same situation, but they could at least help confront it, or at least, you know, be a little bit more prepared. But oh well. Of course, now Manny returns home to see that the house is basically trashed and can already see a pool of blood, knowing that whatever it is cannot be good. And you may be asking yourself, where's Donna? Well, don't worry, because we immediately find out that she decided to take herself to the hospital, because obviously she's not doing well. Norma, being the good Peace Corps soul person that she is, decides, you know, she's gonna try to help Donna, maybe clean her off, give her a nice blanket so she could stay warm. But when she goes to wipe her foot down to clean her off, the entirety of her foot skin comes off, because of course it does. Also, I raise this question again. If these beings are so strong and so fast and able to just turn people's necks around like a Beyblade, how come their skin just falls off at the slightest touch? Yet they can raise people in the air and rip open body parts with their bare hands, but magically appear places, and if you touch their skin, it's basically like, yeah, sorry chief, I'm out, and it just completely separates from their body. But hey, movie plot lines, I guess. I mean, not much you can do about it. So that brings us to the final big climax. Jud's dad confronts Bill about Timmy and the fact that Timmy came back not in one piece, and tells him we can do this the hard way or the harder way, with Bill simply replying, I figured I could at least get my son back. Well, luckily enough, Donna left a note for Judd whenever he gets to the hospital saying the farm, which I guess we all know where we're going now, and he goes to the farm to help retrieve Norma. And now it's go time, because not only is the Crandall family there, there's also Manny, the sheriff, Marjorie, the mayor. I mean, I'd reckon to say half the whole town is here, with the ultimate goal of Bill planning to murder his son, and everyone else gets to burn down the house, because why wouldn't they? I mean, I guess you just gotta destroy the house. Is that just like, you know what, Bill, you messed up here, now we gotta burn your house down? But I guess now let's do the math here. Let's see, we are starting with 7 people here, and at the most, we have Donna and we have Timmy. By my calculations, that's 7 against 2. Those are pretty good odds. Well, they were good odds until Bill, Judd's father, and Manny, so 4 of them, decided that they were going to go into the house. Sheriff was gonna stay outside by himself and start pouring around the lighter fluid. Marjorie decided she was going to wander off on her own, and the mayor decided to wander off on his own. So immediately you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. But you know, maybe this works out, because hey, if they split up, maybe they can find them a little bit easier, huh? Well, the mayor decides he's gonna go check the farm and start looking underneath all these things, probably in the worst way that you could possible, by getting on all fours, and that turns about as well as you think it would go. And after that happening, we also see that Marjorie has ended up in the stables, and well, Timmy makes quick work of her also. And probably the person who got done the dirtiest out of everybody in this is the sheriff, because the sheriff's dead now too, as we just see that he's dead outside, because he didn't even get the pleasure of being an on-screen death. We just panned to him and it's like, yeah, sheriff died too. Just thought we'd mention that. And Timmy decides to set the house on fire because, sure, I guess. But you know what? Doesn't matter anymore, because now we're down to the only people who count, and that's the main characters and Donna, because Donna's at the house too. And we all know how much Manny loves his sister Donna. And even though she begins to slice and dice him with a scalpel, he's like, don't shoot her. This is definitely my sister. I know she might be a little crazy. She's a little quirky, you know? We just always love to slice each other with scalpels all the time. But Judd doesn't even get the chance to shoot her, because Dan the man, decides to come in and shotgun her in the face, which I know they say aim for the eyes, but I'm sure a shotgun that just, you know, gets the entire face would be suitable enough. So obviously it manages to get rid of Donna, and they all live happily ever after. Psych, Donna's not actually dead, and she manages to sorry, this is a hard part to get through. Donna manages to stab Dan with a shotgun, not a knife, not the scalpel. She doesn't shoot him with it. She stabs him with the shotgun, with the tip of the shotgun going through him. That's certainly a way to die, I guess. But in all this, Manny decides that he's gonna man up and deadshot Manny with a rifle. Even though he's close, he manages to swing that bad boy around and get Donna right in the eye. But really, he was stabbed with a shotgun. At this point now though, Bill shows up and is like, hey guys, house is on fire. We can't go out the front door, so let's go into the basement. And they go down to the basement, and for some reason there's a tunnel there. And of course, Judd asks Bill, like, hey Bill, why do you have all is this the Underground Railroad? What's going on here? He's like, well, when Timmy came back and he was totally normal, he started digging these tunnels underneath the house. Sure, dude, sure. But luckily for them, the tunnels being down there allow them to escape from the currently burning down house. And the one thing that's very confusing about these tunnels is that I understand if Timmy decided to dig these tunnels, maybe he dug it straight to Pet Sematary or whatever, but this is like a circuit of tunnels. There is tunnels that go left, that go right. There's probably one that goes up, one that goes diagonal. He's probably got one that goes all the way to China. That's how intricate these tunnels are. But speaking of Timmy, he already knows where they're at, and he can be seen at the front of the tunnel as they begin to go further in, which means that Timmy would have had to have just walked through the burning house to get to that area.
He was a fireman.
This is really starting to go off the rails in the last couple minutes. But now Timmy begins to stalk everyone in the tunnels, as we also see that Norma is in a hole somewhere that is quickly filling up with mud, and we know that if she manages to die underneath there, she will inevitably come back as one of them. But luckily, Bill finds Timmy and does what he needs to, and does what he said he was going to do, and he brought his son into this world, and by golly, he's gonna take him out. Only he didn't, because Timmy manages to rip out his organs, because Jesus, I understand it's your son, but he is murdering people right now. But hey, luckily, Manny and Judd, even though they've never been in these tunnels before and have no idea where to go, make it out perfectly fine, only for Timmy to drag Manny off into the middle of the swamp. And boy, has this just really gone off the rails, because as Timmy is dragging Manny off into the swamp, he manages to slide Manny underneath a tripwire that is attached to a landmine. And for the life of me, like, I understand they're doing this for the plot, but how does he get him under there? If you're watching the video right now, you can see that the way that he's holding him, there's no way for him to either step over it and then set him under it or anything like that. He just somehow gets this tripwire above Manny to the point where he is not able to stand up. And if one of y'all wants to leave a comment and explain to me the algebraic arithmetic calculations that need to go into this for this to happen, maybe my small little peanut brain is not able to comprehend it, but please, if you know how this can happen, please inform me, because I am waiting for an explanation. But none of that matters now, because Judd decides he's going to go wading around in the waist-high water, and Timmy decides he wants to become Scuba Steve, and it's just hanging out underneath him in the water. And of course, since he's kind of in this swamp and this is where he's been hanging out recently, he decides he's going to try to drown Judd in the water and hold his head under. And luckily for us though, Deadeye Manny strikes again. He has a flare gun, you know, the one gun that almost is impossible to control because it's not actually like a set bullet. It just kind of pops off and just kind of off into the nothingness. Well, I guess that's why they call him Bullseye Manny. Actually, nobody calls him that, but I do. And that's why he manages to absolutely snipe Timmy. That's right, with a flare gun from easily 20 yards away. Not even a challenge, buddy. Next time, give him something a little bit harder. And at this point, you're probably thinking, now they're gonna go and save Norma, right? They're gonna dig around and they're all gonna live happily ever after. No, Norma just digs herself out. Judd and Manny didn't even save Norma. Norma managed to save herself, and she managed to do all of this herself. All that Judd and Manny did was kill Timmy. So good job, Norma, I guess. And now we get the happy, feel-good music at the end. We see that Manny is doing what his sister always wanted of him, and he's leaving this stupid town and going on his own. While at the same time, Judd and Norma decide that they're going to live at the family house so they can prevent everything that's going on. Even though we know later from the movie, based on the original book, that Judd must not be the smartest person, because whenever that family moves into town several 30 to 40 years later, he immediately tells them about the Pet Sematary. But hey, that's Pet Sematary Bloodlines in a nutshell, and you know what time it is now? It's review time, baby. As we all know, every day, every century, every other month, it comes to that time where men, women, and children all gather around to hear what I have to review this movie. Let's start with the plot. For the plot, it's only getting a 0.5 for me. This makes almost no sense, especially with the skin and how everything just falls off. It seems like they would be a lot more frail than they actually are, but they seem to at the same time be superhuman and be able to do all these amazing things with like teleporting, super strength, and just like being this unstoppable force. And yet if they touch their fingers together, their skin falls off. It's an unhealthy balance, if that makes any sense. Like, I understand they're dead, so their skin is gonna die. Okay, cool. But like, if it's that easy for it to fall off, then how come they're able to do all this other stuff at a superhuman, unnatural level? And yet, if the wind blows too hard, they lose their arm. I mean, it makes no sense to me. Especially one of my favorite parts at the end when it was supposed to be this big saving story at the end where Timmy and Manny go and manage to save Norma. They don't even save her. She has to save herself at that point. She's the one who digs herself out and releases herself from everything. They didn't even save her. They just killed the two people. So in the end, they didn't even have this big saving moment where everyone embraced. She had to save herself, which I think, yes, it doesn't impact the story too much or anything like that, but I don't know, I just think that's kind of funny and a little bit of a cop-out kind of, but also feel like they could have done a better story when it came to, you know, everyone wants to see the whole origin of the land, not Judd, but here we go. For the acting, I actually gave it a 2.5. I really kind of liked how everyone acted in this movie. I thought Manny was awesome. Timmy did a really good job, and just everyone overall really seemed to put a lot of effort into this movie to try to express the emotions and feelings between the characters, and the timing on a lot of it was really good. I just really feel like everyone managed to, you know, really kind of step it up and really kind of do something that made this a little bit more tolerable, more manageable, and I feel like they did a really good job on that. So I don't feel bad about giving the acting a 2.5. I thought it was really good, and unfortunately that's gonna raise the overall grade for a movie I don't think is too great, but I'm gonna give credit where it's due. I felt like the acting was really, really good. For the cinema, 1, mid, didn't do anything special. It was very standard. I know my rating tends to move around the most when it comes to cinema, but this is one of those movies where it really doesn't do anything special. Nothing really blows you out of the water. It's like, look, Paramount Plus original movie, we have a lot of money to spend on this movie. You get good cameras, you get good shots, but there wasn't anything that really stood out. It wasn't like, oh man, look, they really found a way to make this work, or they really made you think with some of the camera movements or continuous shots. It was just as standard comes. It was template camera work, which you can't be mad about, but don't expect anything high if you're not going to do anything too over the top or even innovative. So gets the standard 1 from me. For the bonus point, we're actually getting half a bonus point here. We're not going to get the whole thing, but we're going to get a half of a bonus point, and it's strictly because of Manny.
Oh shit, why are you sexy?
But hey, for all of you mathematicians out there, for those of you that might struggle a little bit with the adding, don't worry, your boy's here to help you out. For those who didn't feel like counting it up, our final score is going to be a 4.5 out of 10. And if we compare that to IMDb has it a 4.7 out of 10. So haha, IMDb, mine was lower. My rating's better than yours, but it's a movie. What do you want me to say? It's not anything super special. If you've seen Pet Sematary before, I don't know if you want to watch this or not. It gives you somewhat of an origin story for Judd, but it's not necessarily canon if I had to guess. Like, even if you go back and watch the original Pet Sematary movie, the way that the death of Timmy was handled was a lot different, and I just feel like this is something that, especially for newer viewers of Pet Sematary, maybe if you've seen, I know they made a remake. If you've seen the new one, if you've seen the old one, maybe you want to watch it just to kind of finish out the whole series, but it's up to you. I don't know if I'd watch it again. I had to watch it again for this review, but that's not saying a lot. But if you really want to just watch them all, I'm not going to tell you not to. Go for it. It's not terrible. It's not that great either. So just expect that going into it. And if you want a special thing to look forward to, just skip to all the Manny scenes and you'll be just fine. But that brings us to the end of this review. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a like, leave a comment if there's other movies you would like me to take a look at. There is a comment that I have on one of my other videos that I actually have to go back and probably make a video on. I will not point out which one it is, but whenever I make that video, I will make sure to point it out. Of course, if you suggest it and I do end up making a video about that, I'll shout it out. This ain't a big platform, but hey, that's probably 300 people or so. But once again, thank you all for stopping by. I really appreciate it. As previously stated, if you like this video, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And plus, if I ever get any type of sponsors or anything like that, I cannot wait to make the dumbest sponsor things that I can. But thank you to everyone who stopped by. I greatly appreciate all y'all being here. I will see you in the next one. And until then, you all be safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.